Hi, everybody. I'm Marc Middleton. Welcome back to Growing Bolder. I've moved from our conference room to, I guess the main part of our office, not really a lobby because this is a working space. So if anybody walks through, we'll forgive them. I wanted to show you guys this. This is a tribute to our friend and colleague, Wendy Chioji, who sadly passed away almost a year ago. And I say sadly, this is a woman who had three different types of cancer for, nearly 15 years. And let me tell you, she just burned it to the ground. This is a woman who extracted, every drop out of life, every drop out of every friendship until the very end. And defy was her mantra. That's how she lived her life, defying the prognosis, defying the expectations for someone who had the disease that she had. So a constant reminder to all of us that, we are a mission-based business that's here to defy expectations, all sorts of expectations, but most especially, those about the way that we're going to age. I turned on the evening news recently, excuse me, as many of you guys do. And, I kind of felt like I was, in one of those opening scenes of a apocalyptic dystopian film in which the newscaster is, he's talking about the wildfires and the hurricanes and the pandemic and the violence in the streets and the melting ice caps, all at once. But, unfortunately, this is not a science fiction movie. This is actually 2020. So I am very glad that it is now Friday. And I'm pausing to celebrate National Daughters Day, which is today. I'll have more on that in just a moment. But first, here's a short 15-second video. Listen closely to this.
I love you, Dad.
I love you too.
That's the most of Mommy.
All right, thank you for that.
I love you, Dad.
I love you too.
That's the most of Mommy.
All right, thank you for
that. The beautiful and sometimes painful honesty of children, always enduring. And I think dads don't always get the respect that they deserve. All right, here's what's next on What's Next today. We're going to talk hemp extract and CBD with Stephanie McMahon, who is a industry insider. As you know, the industry is exploding. So, what's in it for you? We're going to meet Ann Call, who is a 91-year-old poster girl for the Health Wealth Connection. Ann is going to lay a little tough love on all of us. And we'll meet John Corse, who is the poster boy for the power of prehabilitation. We'll talk to John about his recovery from COVID-19 at the age of 96. A very remarkable story. All right, it's no secret that healthcare costs will continue to rise over the coming years and decades. Understandably, one of the biggest fears that we all have is that we're going to run out of money before we run out of time. That's why at Growing Bolder, we talk a whole lot about the health wealth connection because the two are inextricably linked. You can't improve your health without also improving your wealth. Our friend Ann Call is pretty much the poster girl for the health wealth connection. And you're going to be amazed at what Ann spends, or I guess more accurately, what she doesn't spend on healthcare and prescription drugs. Listen to this. First question is, what are your total healthcare costs over the last 2 years?
0.
Second question, how many prescription medications are you currently on?
0.
So let's find out how you do that, because you really have come to represent what is possible when you leverage this health wealth connection. I don't want to ask personal questions about your financial situation, but I'm guessing you're not a wealthy woman.
No. I'm not wealthy. I have Social Security. That's pretty much it. But my house is paid for, my car is paid for, so that helps. I don't have those kinds of payments, mortgage and so forth. And I'm very careful how I spend my money, extremely careful.
So let's talk about the lifestyle choices that you make, because I know the number one thing is that you keep moving, you stay active. What kinds of things do you do? What do you believe in?
I believe in doing some kind of exercise every day. It doesn't have to be a lot, it doesn't have to be intense, but just a simple walk for 30, 40 minutes. If you do that almost every day, that is a huge help. I just love to be active, and I find that it brings me happiness and health and strength, strength to do what I need to do around the house, lift things, move things.
One of the problems I think that we all face is the fact that we live in an ageist culture and we are subjected 24/7 to messages on the television primarily, but every way where that tell us that this is what aging is supposed to be like, that we need the help of prescription medications, that we have to be ashamed of who we are and what we look like. How do you overcome all of this incessant negative ageist messaging?
I laugh out loud at the TV when I see those pharmaceutical ads come on. All these people that they look so happy because they're taking these drugs. Then they tell you all of the side effects. There's a long list, including at the end, death. Okay. And then, oh, by the way, ask your doctor if such and such is right for you. I can't believe, I mean, it's hysterical.
Doctors that are not owned by pharmaceutical companies these days almost universally will say that exercise is, in fact, the best medicine. You concur.
Oh, absolutely, positively. But I think there are some doctors that are, I would use the word, in cahoots with the pharmaceutical companies because there's money. It's all about money, and that is why the drug companies are not really looking for things that will cure, because otherwise, a cured patient is no longer a paying customer, right? So, and the people believe it. Oh my gosh, that just that's just you know this this machine that we have, this body, is spectacular when you think of it. It runs automatically. You don't have to remind yourself to breathe. You don't have to remind your heart to beat. It does it on its own. But the best of it all, there's a computer up here, a built-in computer, a brain, and it's by far the best computer that man has ever devised. God has made this, but people disrespect it and they abuse it. That is why they suffer. Happiness is a big part of it. To be happy as you age. Oh, it's I have had the most wonderful life, full of challenges, but a fantastic life. And I'm now at the point in my life where probably the happiest I've ever been because I have my freedom, my independence, and my health. What more could you ask? No, even money would not make me any happier. No.
You are also a poster girl for compressed morbidity. The notion that even though we may not extend the length of our life, we can all extend the period of disease and disability at the end of our life, which is really the ultimate goal. You, as I said, are the poster girl, and you mentioned dying not long ago in this interview. If you were to drop tomorrow, you have not suffered a single day of disease and disability. That feels good.
Yes. Because I think a lot of these people who are letting themselves get to the point where they develop diseases that they could have prevented are very selfish because they're setting themselves up to be um, uh, a terrible challenge for their families. Someone's going to have to take care of them eventually, and aside from nursing homes and so forth. I have been caregiver for my husband, then for my father, and then for my sister. And I can tell you, it's not an easy job.
And if your family can't take care of you, then society has to take care of
That's
you. So,
right.
in a very real way, healthcare starts at home. We are
Yeah.
all our primary care provider
Yeah.
in a very real sense.
Oh, and the cost of everything is absolutely outrageous.
Well, Ann, thank you for your time. Thank you for your example, because there are far too few of you right now. But because of you, there will be many, many more in the
I
years
hope
ahead.
so. I truly do.
Well, unfortunately, despite her best efforts, it's not likely that Anne will be able to, avoid all physical setbacks as she ages. That's part of the biological condition. But odds are that she will be able to bounce back and recapture the quality of life that she continues to enjoy on a daily basis, because she is prehabilitated, something else we talk a lot about. Our poster boy for prehabilitation is John Corse, who, in addition to being 96 years old, John has multiple underlying conditions. So it's really not surprising that at 96 he contracted COVID. And to me, it's not surprising that he was able to bounce back because he is prehabilitated. I had an opportunity to speak just a few days ago with John about his COVID experience. Listen to this.
I went in first to Mayo with atrial fibrillation, and then when they checked me, they found I had COVID. So I stayed in the hospital about another 10 days while they medicated me. And it really knocked me down pretty hard, but I was able to get up and get out and go home. Still suffer a little from shortness of breath, and pretty weak, but I'm feeling pretty good.
You're looking really good. And, if we haven't said it yet, we should tell everybody out there that you are 6 years old. What did your physician say? What did your doctor say when you were diagnosed about the prognosis and after your recovery? Are they amazed?
They didn't tell me anything about the prognosis while I was there. I knew what all the publicity said, that if you're over 85, you got underlying physical conditions, you're in special risk. So I was aware of what was going on, but I never really felt threatened. I thought, it's just another one of those things you have to go through. I've been through lots of them in my life so far. So I just hung in there and did whatever they told me to do.
You were a good patient, and you mentioned underlying conditions. Before we talk about what I think is the reason for your recovery, my non-medical opinion, we should share everybody that, over the past few years, you have had bacterial endocarditis, temporal arteritis, sleep apnea, atrial fibrillation, a compression fracture in your lower spine. You've got a weak mitral valve. And of course, you had COVID, and here you are at 96 years old, recovering. I think I know why you recover, but tell us, why do you think you're able to continue to not just bounce back, but maintain a quality of life that you obviously enjoy?
Well, I think the main reason is I've always managed to stay active. I've been, started out as a swimmer when I was 2 or 3 years old and progressed on through high school and college swimming. And then I laid off for about 50 years. But I continued to play a little tennis, a little golf, stayed very active. And then finally got back to Jacksonville. My friend Tiger Holmes persuaded me to join a master swimming program. And that really put me back into shape. And I think that's the reason that I was able to survive this thing, is that my body was still strong enough to fight off whatever it is they're giving us.
Well, that's what we call prehabilitation here at Growing Boulder. And, it's one of the things I believe in with all my heart. And that is the fact that, unfortunately, we're human beings. Part of the biological condition is that we will experience a series of physical setbacks as we age. It's inevitable. We'll finally experience a period of decline, and to a large extent, your ability to recover from those setbacks and the extent and speed of your recovery afterwards is determined by your overall health and fitness at the time. So I think it's important, folks, to note that John Corse, at 96 years old, is not a superhuman being. He's a guy that has a litany of physical issues, but he continues to bounce back, A, because he's prehabilitated, and B, because he's got this mind that is really, really remarkable. remarkable. So, John, you say swimming is what helped you bounce back. Do you think you'll ever be able to get back in the pool again?
Well, I've been already back in the pool, not swimming very fast, but I have trouble with my flutter kick because, in addition to all the other complaints, I hurt my back by leaning over too long. So it hurts me when I try to kick, but I just get in the pool and paddle around, go up and down, and walk back and forth. I think I'll be able to, whether I'll be able to go off a diving board again, I don't know, but I'll try.
I will try. There you go. At 96 years old, it's that attitude that keeps people moving forward. You know, one of the discussions I was having with somebody recently was about physical therapist in the aftermath of surgeries for older people, and discouraging older people from even attempting to walk without a walker, encouraging them to get into wheelchairs.
The worst thing you can do is get on a walker into a wheelchair. That, to me, is just a death sentence, because you start hanging all over like this and you can't stand up straight. That's just crazy. You don't want that old rocking chair to get you.
All right, John, you're a good guy. Thank you for your inspiration and all you do.
Thank you.
Boy, what a privilege and an honor to not only be friends with John Corse and Ann Call, but to learn from them and to be able to share their wisdom with others. The wisdom of our elders is just incredible. And it's something that, our culture as a whole does not tap into nearly as much as we should. Growing Bolder, we love to share the stories of people like John and Ann, because we not only learn from them, we're inspired by them. I think we're all inspired by ordinary people who find a way to live extraordinary lives. In fact, we call them opals, ordinary people, extraordinary lives. And we'd like to tell more stories. So do you know an opal? Do you know someone whose story we should share, not just to recognize them, but also to inspire others? If so, just go to growingbolder.com/extraordinary, and you can nominate someone for us to do a story on. All right. I know you guys have all read about and heard about the exploding multi-billion-dollar hemp extract, CBD wellness industry that, has so many people excited. Others are confused. Some are concerned, which is why, we wanted to bring in a trusted industry thought leader to help us understand what it is, what it isn't, and what concerns that maybe we should have. I recently spoke with Stephanie McMahon, who is a triathlete. She's a former standout volleyball player at Southern California. She's got an MBA from the University of Virginia, and she's co-founder of Easy Feeling Wellness. Here she is. Let's get into it. First of all, what is hemp? Because I know many people, especially of a certain age, think that it's marijuana.
Oh, gosh. Thanks for asking, Mark. And first of all, also thank you for having me here. It's a delight to meet you virtually. That's probably the number one question we get. And that's usually buried in this question of really the concern is, does it get me high? And even my own parents, had that question. So hemp and marijuana come from the cannabis plant. And hemp was actually legalized in 2018 with the U.S. Farm Bill. And they're both from the cannabis plant, but hemp, the number one distinction, and actually the legal definition, is that the hemp actually has less than 0.03% of THC, whereas marijuana can have on average 15 to 20% of THC. And the key thing about THC, which is a molecule, is that THC is the kind of infamous recreational molecule that gets you high. It has that high effect. So hemp doesn't get you high. It's federally legal, and in our products and in many manufacturers' products, we even extract that 0.03% THC. So our products have actually 0% THC. So again, you have the cannabis plant, you have hemp on one side, and you have marijuana on the other.
Hemp is not marijuana.
Correct.
Where does CBD fit in? Because we
Oh,
also
gosh.
hear about that. Hemp
Thank
extract versus CBD. Help us out with
Yes.
that.
What we know is that cannabinoids that are found in hemp extract interact with our internal system. And CBD is one of probably 100 different cannabinoids. You know, there's just this yummy, soupy, juicy mixture of cannabinoids that have different effects on the system. But CBD is a cannabinoid that interacts with our system, the system, and helps promote kind of a state of balance, if you will.
I love it. We're having a great conversation with
Yeah.
Stephanie McMahon, co-founder of Easy Feeling Wellness. So let me make sure I've got this right.
Yes, it's complicated.
Hemp is not marijuana.
Correct.
Hemp is a non-addictive genre of, it's a natural product, but it does have CBD in it, which is an active ingredient that interacts with our endocannabinoid system. And Lord knows I'm proud of my endocannabinoid system.
Yes, good. I'm happy about that. Yes, correct.
You mentioned that it helps with mood, and I've read a lot about that. But I've also read that it's a great anti-inflammatory. And we have read one study after another from doctors that say inflammation is really the cause of most diseases. So it will help with our mood. And is it true that it does? It's an anti-inflammatory, and if so, what else does it do?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So let me just say, so here's the caveat, Mark. CBD is really a subset of hemp extract. It's a compound found in hemp extract. But for this purpose, and really for retail purposes, companies use those terms kind of interchangeably. And your question about, is it an anti-inflammatory and how does it work? Therein lies the rub. It is not it's not approved by the FDA quite yet. There's a ton of pressure on the FDA right now to come up with some guidelines and some commentary on the effectiveness of CBD. And in fact, like the American Arthritis Foundation is really pressuring, publicly pressuring the FDA, because so many of their members use CBD on a hemp extract on a daily basis. So, so the restriction is that manufacturers cannot make medical claims. But so it's a complex. I apologize, but
No.
My hands are tied, and
listen. This is why I wanted to talk to you. I appreciate this answer. We could get someone that would come up here and tell us anything and everything, and that's one of the problems with the industry is that. And I know that you can't say that. I just wanted to see if you would, and you didn't. So kudos for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
What you can do though is, as I understand it, is share the testimonials, the stories of people who use it, and this is the thing that caught my interest, because you do read, very passionate testimonials from people who say that I rubbed it on my wrist and I feel better. So I'm not asking you to confirm any of that. Any idea, Stephanie, where the FDA is in this? And and I'm guessing pharmaceutical companies are probably not really behind the FDA making this announcement, because they would rather sell some sort of heavy drug that to take care of it.
Exactly. Well, what I can tell you, I can tell you a couple of things. 40 million Americans who currently use CBD, and of that 40 million, 83% use hemp CBD on a daily basis. Let me just say, the caveat is always speak to your medical professional. There is a chance that CBD hemp extract could interact with prescription medications that you're using. So I got to get that out of the way. And we do encourage people to do that. I'm not a medical doctor. I don't have a PhD in studying this. So getting that out of the way, what I always tell people is do the research, start looking into, like you said, Mark, what people are saying about different ailments, aches and pains.
One of the things I found interesting about Easy Feeling Wellness is you guys, it appears to me, unabashedly target, an older demographic, which you call active boomers. I know. These hemp extract products very popular with millennials, but I guess the answer to why you're doing that is obvious, because we're the ones with the aches and the pains, the ones that are having trouble sleeping, the ones that have the stress and the anxiety from starting businesses. Is that pretty much it?
Yes. Well, yeah, not only that, Mark, but I think that the piece too is, the phrase is active boomers, not just boomers, and I can use myself as a case in point. I'm almost 60 and proud of it, because I'll be able to race in the 60 plus age group. So I'm looking forward to that. But, my pattern of activity has never changed. I have always been a cyclist or a volleyball player, or hiking and, swimming. And just my latest gig is definitely triathlon. And frankly, triathlon because of the variety, the cross training, and also because of the tribe. I love the people that I train with. But one of the things that I noticed as I aged was that sleep became more of an issue for me. Just, knock out 8 hours of sleep became more difficult to find. And then also just recovery. And all of that data is available in terms of, building and maintaining muscle mass, and, and how important sleep is for your recovery. And, somebody, a friend of mine said, no, your training and your effectiveness of your training happens while you're asleep. It doesn't happen during your workout, which is really an interesting and true comment. But my point is that as I have aged personally, and continue to be in hot pursuit of the crazy things I did when I was in my 20s and 30s, I just need the support. And I'll tell you what, this is the other thing, Mark, and I'm sure, I suspect you have the same, it's just also, it's the cumulative kind of choices that we make. So it's not only, using CBD and everything is going to be easy. It's, just diet too, water, hydration, like all of those things together, I have experienced they really contribute to just my overall wellness. And so when I meet, people, if I'm out paddleboarding or something and I meet friends, there's a high level of interest, that people still want to get after it, but they're looking for, what's an anti-inflammatory diet? What's the best hydration to use for when I'm heavy lifting, or, all of those kinds of questions. People in our age group are looking for additional support. And by the way, not looking to get involved with prescription drugs. People want to, I don't want to be, I'm going to live another 30 or 40 years. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be on a daily prescription drug. And they have their place for sure. But I want to put that off for as long as possible, if not forever. And so I am actively looking for support, things that will support and enhance my lifestyle.
Amen, Stephanie McMahon.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, hey,
long-winded.
you get up on that soapbox, girl, and go. And I let you go because you made some great points. The key to active aging, folks, is really a symphony, if you will, of lifestyle choices. And when you make one, it makes it easier to make the other. And it could be very true that hemp extract is something that can enhance your lifestyle. So I encourage you to do your research, as Stephanie suggested. Check out their website. It's easyfeelingwellness.com. And what I like about this company, in addition to its co-founder, is that they do fancy themselves as true thought leaders. They're out there not just trying to sell you a product. They're trying to, help you understand if it's right for you. And if it is right for you, they've got some great products. So Stephanie McMahon, thank you so much for your time. It has been very enlightening. And, the next time I'm in California, I'm going to look you up so we can play a little beach volleyball.
Please do. Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for your time. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, you can learn more about Stephanie and her company, as I mentioned, at easyfeelingwellness.com. And what I like about their website is that they do have a great hemp education section. I'm curious about CBD, hemp extract, CBD oil. I imagine many of you are. If you've had an experience with it, please feel free to share it with us. I've had a problem with my right wrist for some time, and I've started rubbing some hemp extract on it recently to see if it helps at all. I'll let you know if it does. All right, let's move on. I mentioned at the top of the show that this is National Daughters Day. Not that we need a reason to celebrate our children, but I, for one, am all for it because, folks, I have been blessed beyond measure with two little girls who grew up to be my best friends. The greatest thing I've ever done, without question, not even close, is this. You're looking at it. That's Quinn on the left and Kelsey on the right, and I won't embarrass myself or them by sharing their impressive resumes other than to say this: they are both as kind as they look. And finally, let's wrap it up with my What's on My Mind segment, because it's just that. Love is on my mind today because love is the answer. It really makes no difference what the question is. Love is the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Yes, occasionally it gets knocked down. I think it has recently, but it always gets back up, and it has never been knocked out. Love is always the way forward. It is always the way through. The way through what? Doesn't make any difference. Everything, anything. Researchers also tell us that love raises our immunity. It lowers our blood pressure. It reduces stress and anxiety and depression. And it doesn't have to be the romantic kind of love. This is great news. The close friendships and loving friends have the same impact. And love is not only good for our health, it is great for our happiness. In fact, it's been proven that the two most common questions that we ask ourselves just before we die are, was I loved? And did I love? In other words, love is, in fact, the true key to happiness. So don't make the mistake of saying that I'll be happy when I have more money. I'll be happy when I reach my goal, because you won't be. The secret is realizing that we already have everything that we need to be truly happy, and it's simply the ability to love and to be loved. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll leave you with a look at Defy. In honor of our friend Wendy Chioji. Keep defying everything this week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Growing bolder, what's next?